After Vegas, I'm filing for divorce. That's what she said. I heard it clear as day, even from the hallway. She thought I wasn't home. She thought I was still at the job site, stuck in traffic, maybe grabbing food on the way. But I'd come home early, half a day off, a rare thing in my line of work. I was going to surprise her with takeout and a movie. Maybe try and reconnect. We hadn't been right in a while. Instead, I got to hear her laughing in the kitchen on speakerphone, pacing in her socks, talking to someone I couldn't quite place. He has no idea, she said, the smugness in her voice making my stomach clench. I'm letting him pay for the whole trip. One last free weekend, right? A pause. Then she added, casual as anything. When I get back, I'm done. The papers are ready. I already talked to the lawyer. I stood frozen by the stairs, one foot still on the second step, gripping the railing like it was the only thing keeping me upright. The takeout bag hit the floor. Quietly, I backed down the stairs and into the garage without making a sound. Stood there between the water heater and the shelves of half-used paint cans. I couldn't breathe right. My hand was shaking like I'd just been gut-punched. 12 years. Gone. Just like that. And I was finding out like some background character in my own life. She didn't know I heard. She didn't know a damn thing. My name's Jason. I'm 38. I've built houses, kitchens, decks, businesses. Hell, I even designed and constructed the porch she drinks wine on with her friends. I'm not the guy who yells. I don't throw things or go off the rails. That's never been my style. But that night, I came real close. She walked into the living room like nothing happened. Smiled at me. Kissed my cheek. Said, "Oh, you're home early." "Yeah," I said. Slow day on site. She dug into the bag of food. Perfect timing. I've been dying for pad thai. I just nodded. My throat was tight. I couldn't look at her. Not without cracking. Instead, I watched her scroll on her phone, probably texting the same person she was laughing with 10 minutes earlier. She told me she'd be off-grid all weekend. Said the girls were doing a detox thing. No phones, just fun. Her exact words. I knew now that detox meant deceit. She left Friday morning. I drove her to the airport. Her luggage was brand new. Leopard print. She wore oversized sunglasses and a crop top that didn't belong to a woman who claimed she was just going to lounge by the hotel pool. She hugged me quick, said, "Love you. Be good," and disappeared into the terminal like I was an Uber driver. I didn't say I love you back. Just watched her go. There was a white lie in that hug, and I could feel it like a knife pressed between my ribs. I didn't head home right away. Instead, I parked in the airport cell phone lot, pulled out my phone, and opened our joint bank app. Bam! First charge hit before her plane even took off. Champagne at Vino Volo. $76. I turned on push notifications. Let her show me who she really was. That night, I was on my porch with a beer when my buddy Travis called. He works security at McCarran. "Didn't know Alyssa was in town," he said. "Girls trip?" I said, trying to sound normal. "Yeah. Sure looked cozy for a girl's trip." I sat up straight. "What do you mean?" She came through security holding hands with some guy. Tall. Wore a Red Rock Fitness hoodie. They were kissing like newlyweds. My heart dropped into my stomach. "You're sure?" He hesitated. "Jason, she was wearing that gold necklace you bought her for your 10th anniversary. The one with your initials on it." She had her hand on his chest while they waited for TSA. I didn't answer. I couldn't. "Look," he added, "I wasn't going to say anything. But you deserve to know. Do you have a picture?" A pause. Then, ding. The photo came through. Grainy, but clear enough. Her, in that damn leopard luggage outfit, leaning into a guy I'd never seen before. The necklace glinted in the airport lights. My hand clenched around the phone so hard the case cracked. I stared at it for a long time. Then I saved it. Saturday, 3 a.m. Another charge hit. VIP entry, Euphoria Lounge, for $150. So much for offline all weekend. By Sunday night, the total bill was over $1,200. Spa services, bottle service, in-room dining. 2 charges to Sunset Jewelers. I guess he got a gift too. I didn't say a word. Didn't text. Didn't confront her. I let her believe I was sitting at home like a good, clueless husband, waiting for her to bring me back a souvenir t-shirt and a fake story. But I wasn't waiting. I was watching. And I was planning. Monday, I checked the flight tracker. Her plane landed at 10 a.m. Emma was already parked outside baggage claim. She walked out in a sweatsuit and sunglasses, dragging her bag like she'd just come back from a yoga retreat. She didn't see me at first, but when she did, she froze. I watched her recalibrate in real time. The fake smile, the casual hair flip, the little, "Oh wow, you didn't have to pick me up" act. "I figured I'd surprise you," I said. She laughed. "That's sweet." I opened the trunk, loaded her luggage, opened her door. She slid into the passenger seat and spotted the manila envelope on the dash. "What's this?" she asked. I kept my eyes on the road. "Something for you to read later." She reached for it. I braked just enough to make her hesitate. She leaned back, gave a tight smile. A second passed. "Jason," she said, her voice different now. Lower. "Careful. What's going on?" I looked over at her, saw the faintest flicker of doubt behind the sunglasses, and I smiled. "Let's just call it your last free weekend." When we got back from the airport, Alyssa went upstairs first. I didn't follow. I stayed in the garage for a long time, just standing there with the engine ticking as it cooled, one hand on the wheel, the other still holding the keys. I wasn't thinking about what she'd done. I was thinking about what I wasn't going to do. No arguments. No dramatic speeches. No giving her the satisfaction of seeing me wounded. That was the moment I decided to disappear, not physically, but piece by piece, right in front of her. The next morning, I cleared out the second bedroom, made it mine. She asked if I was sick. I said I'd been snoring, didn't want to keep her up. That was all it took. She nodded, mumbled something about needing better sleep anyway, and shut the door. 2 days later, I deleted every social media account I had. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all gone. When she noticed, she came into the kitchen with her phone and said, "Did you deactivate? You okay?" I was stirring my coffee. "Just tired of being online," I said, and that was that. She blinked, the same way she did when she got caught lying about something small, like when she said she hadn't bought new shoes and the box was still in the trunk. But instead of pressing, she smiled. "Probably healthy to disconnect," she said, trying to sound supportive. She wasn't supportive. She was rattled. That weekend, I told her I had to help a friend with a house flip out in Temecula. I was going to be gone all weekend, maybe longer. "No cell service," I said. She barely asked questions, just smiled and said, "Drive safe." I didn't go to Temecula. I rented a suite at a hotel across town under a name I hadn't used in years, one I only kept active for side work and tax buffer. While she was busy playing single girl in our house, I was upstairs on a laptop transferring everything I could out of her reach. By the end of the weekend, her credit cards were the only thing left in her name. Everything else, untouchable. Our joint savings, gone. Sitting in a holding account under a corporate trust I'd had ready since year 7 of our marriage. Around the same time, she started comparing me to her friends' husbands who worked 9 to 5 and still had time for brunch. I moved my direct deposit to a new account. I rerouted all our mail. I rerouted myself. The only thing I left untouched was the house. I wanted her to feel secure. I wanted her to think she still had something solid to stand on. But then I added a new key code to the front door system, one that only I knew. That same night, I got a text from Travis. Another one. He'd attached a photo. Alyssa again, at some lounge, not Vegas this time. Right here in town. Different outfit, same guy? His hand on her lower back, hers in his pocket. What caught me wasn't the intimacy. It was the necklace. That little gold charm with our initials on it. The one I gave her for our 10-year anniversary, still hanging around her neck like a trophy she forgot to return. I saved the image. I didn't reply to Travis. I didn't need to. The photo told me everything. A week later, I came home late. She was in the kitchen, making a salad like we were some sitcom couple on a Tuesday night. She smiled, asked how the job site was going. I said fine. She asked if I wanted chicken or salmon. I said neither. Then she dropped it. "You seem different lately." I looked up from my phone. "How so?" She shrugged. "Just quieter, distant." I nodded. "Probably am." She waited for more. I gave her nothing. She chewed her lip for a second, then said it. "You know, if something's wrong, we can talk about it." I looked her in the eyes, and I gave her the most honest thing I'd said since this started. If we talked about everything that's wrong, neither of us would sleep tonight. Her eyes didn't blink this time. They froze. She tried to change the subject after that, but her smile didn't come back. Neither did the small talk. That was when I knew the silence was doing its job. By midweek, things started to crack. I got a ping from one of our old shared accounts. The login had failed 3 times in a row. She was trying to get in, testing waters. Then she confronted me, not directly, but close enough. I tried logging into the joint savings yesterday, she said casually as we folded laundry together like nothing had changed. Wanted to check on something for taxes. The login didn't work. Maybe you typed it wrong, I said without looking up. I tried 3 times, she said, watching me now. I looked back at her, calm, steady. Maybe it's not yours anymore. That shut her up. She didn't ask again. She kept slipping. Sloppier texts. More lies layered over bad timing. But nothing topped what happened 2 nights later. We were eating dinner, tacos, of all things, like a normal couple, when she reached across the table to grab the salsa and said, "Did you tell Brandon about the refinance?" I looked up from my plate. Who? She froze for half a second, just half. Then she caught herself. Brad. I meant Brad. My brother. But I caught the stutter. Brandon. Not Brad. Brandon was him. She knew it. I knew it. Neither of us said a word about it. That night, after she went to bed, I packed the last of my things from the guest room into a duffel. I wasn't leaving. Not yet. But I was ready. She wasn't unraveling quietly anymore. She was flailing. I found a handwritten list in the trash the next morning. It had my name on it. Bullet points. Questions. Things she was trying to figure out. Things like, what does Jason know? Why hasn't he said anything? And underlined twice. Can he prove anything? Proof. That was what she cared about. She knew I knew. She just didn't know what I had. Then came the bold move. That weekend, I walked into the house to find her at my laptop, the one I kept in the back office for contract work. She didn't hear me come in. Her face was lit up by the screen. She was inside my private drive folder. Her hand hovered over a document labeled separation_draft_rev2. I cleared my throat. She jumped like I'd slapped her. Looking for something? I asked. She fumbled for words. I thought this was the tax files folder. I didn't mean. You never mean, I said, walking past her. You just do. She stood up. Why do you have a separation draft? I looked at her flatly. Why do you have a Vegas lawyer on speed dial? We stared at each other, years of silence bubbling between us. She wanted me to lose it. She wanted me to give her a reason to cry, to spin, to claim emotional abuse or a lack of communication. Something she could sell. I gave her none of it. Instead, I went upstairs. I left the draft open on the screen. I wanted her to read it. That night, I left something else on the kitchen table. Not a document. Not a note. A printed boarding pass. One way. Her name. A flight to Palm Springs. The destination she'd joked about starting over in. Only this ticket? It had a red X across the barcode. In permanent marker. Nothing else. No explanation. No threat. Just her dream. Cancelled. She found it after her shower, still in her robe. I watched her pick it up like it might burn her fingers. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked at me like she didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't say a word. Just took my beer, walked out to the porch, and shut the door behind me. The unraveling started slow, but it didn't stay that way. For a while, it was just little things, a failed login here, a return package there. Alyssa brushed them off, tried to act like nothing was wrong. But I could see it. The way she triple-checked her phone notifications, how she stopped ordering online like she used to, how her smiles in the mirror lingered just a beat too long, as if trying to convince herself she was still in control. But the storm was already moving in. Then came the anchor. It started with a meeting at her office, or at least, that's what she told me. She left early, dressed sharper than usual, said it was big picture planning with the exec team. I nodded, sipped my coffee, and told her good luck. But she wasn't even out of the driveway before I got the text from Travis. She's not at the building. Just left the cafe. Same guy. That's 3 times this week. Attached was a photo. They were walking side by side, close but not touching, like they were trying to look casual. But even from a distance, their body language gave them away. The familiar lean, the synchronized steps, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when he looked at her. I didn't respond to Travis. I just stared at the photo until my screen dimmed. Then I set the phone down and went back to my eggs. But later that day, something shifted. She came home in a rush, tossed her bag on the counter like it weighed 100 pounds, and went straight to the fridge. I heard the wine bottle uncork, then the glug 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 of a full glass poured fast and careless. She didn't say hi. She didn't ask about my day. She just walked to the living room, kicked off her heels, and stared at the wall. That night, she didn't eat dinner. She just sat there, scrolling, wine in hand, the glow of the screen lighting up the panic on her face. The next morning, her voice was tighter than usual. No good morning. No kiss on the cheek. Just a clipped, "Do you know what's going on with my work email?" I played dumb. Should I? She stared at me. "I can't get in. They locked me out." I shrugged. "Sounds like a tech thing." Her jaw clenched. "It's not a tech thing. I called IT. They said there's a compliance review happening." I raised an eyebrow. "Of what?" "They wouldn't tell me." That's when I saw it. The flicker behind her eyes. Not anger. Not yet. Fear. Real, creeping, what the hell is happening fear. But it didn't end there. The following week, she got called into her manager's office. She came home pale, silent, her blazer hanging over her shoulder like she'd been carrying cinder blocks all day. She didn't speak during dinner. Didn't ask what I was watching on TV. Didn't say a word until 10:42 p.m. when she came into the guest room holding her phone and said, "I think someone's trying to destroy me." I didn't look up from my laptop. Why would someone do that? Her voice cracked. "I don't know." I clicked save on my document, then closed the screen. "Well," I said, standing slowly, "maybe they know something you don't want them to." She didn't respond. Just stood there, phone shaking slightly in her hand. The breakdown didn't come in the backyard, or in the bathroom, or after a glass too many. It came during a phone call with Marcus. He was on speaker, and I was walking by the hallway when I heard her voice raise, not yelling, but sharp, desperate. "I told you I don't know what's happening," she said, pacing the kitchen. "They flagged my account for suspicious access. I'm being audited, Marcus. Audited. At work and personally. This isn't just about us anymore." There was a long pause, then his voice, tinny through the speaker. "Are you sure Jason doesn't know?" That's when her wine glass slipped from her hand. It didn't shatter. It exploded. Glass shot out in every direction, wine bleeding into the floor like a crime scene. She didn't move, didn't gasp, just stood there staring down at it like it was an omen. I didn't say a word from the hallway. I just turned and walked back upstairs. The next night was the dinner party. She planned it suddenly, said she wanted to feel normal again. She cleaned the house obsessively, ordered catering, even wore the blue dress she hadn't touched since our last anniversary. When I asked who was coming, she smiled thinly and said, "Just a few friends. People who still care." That told me all I needed to know. Greg was the first to show. Then Marlene, a junior VP from her firm. Then the neighbors, polite, overly curious, the kind of couple who thrive on other people's chaos. Alyssa poured wine like a hostess on autopilot, but her laugh didn't reach her eyes. Dinner started fine. Small talk. Fake smiles. I stayed quiet, let her steer the night. Until Greg asked about her promotion. "Hey, did that client account go through?" he asked, cutting into his steak. "I heard your name came up in the Monday meeting." Her fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "Oh, yeah. There was a shift in the schedule," she said quickly. "We pushed the pitch." Greg frowned. "That's weird. Thought Alex said you weren't in the office that day." Marlene looked up. "Wait, weren't you at that cafe on 6th? I thought I saw you through the window." Alyssa froze. The table got quiet. She tried to laugh it off. "Oh, yeah, I stopped in for a coffee. Must have been that day." But her voice cracked. Just slightly. And everyone heard it. I kept my eyes on my plate, cutting my food with slow, deliberate movements. The air had changed. She knew it. They knew it. And for once, I didn't have to say a single thing. Later that night, after everyone left, I found her sitting in the dark on the couch, hands clasped together like she was praying. She didn't look up when I entered. "You set me up," she whispered. "I stayed by the hallway." "Set you up for what?" "For this. The email. The compliance report. The promotion being pulled. Greg. Everything." I stepped forward slowly, then stopped behind the arm of the couch. "You really think I have that kind of reach?" She turned to me, eyes glassy. "I don't know what to think anymore." And that was the truth. She didn't. Her world had shifted without a sound. But what she said next caught me off guard. "I miss you." I felt it hit in my chest. For just a second, I didn't speak, didn't move, just studied her face. And in that moment, I saw something real. Not love, not guilt, but regret. Raw and ugly. I almost spoke. Almost. But I didn't. Instead, I left her there with her whine, her lies, and her unraveling conscience. The next night, she tried to flip the script. I came home late, and she was waiting in the kitchen, phone in hand. "I just want this on record," she said, and hit the voice memo button. I didn't interrupt. I let her speak. "Jason Carter is emotionally manipulating me," she began, her voice shaky but rehearsed. "He's been isolating me, removing access to our finances, and—" I walked to the table, reached for the phone, and gently paused the recording. Then I played it back. We both listened to her voice fill the room, desperate and trembling. When it ended, I placed the phone between us. "Now," I said, voice low and calm, "listen to how desperate you sound." She stared at me. "You think you can twist this all around?" she snapped. "Make me look crazy?" "No," I said. "I think you've done a fine job of that yourself." I stepped back, gave her space, and started to leave the room. But then I paused. "You know the difference between me and the man you met in Vegas?" I asked, turning halfway. She didn't respond. I gave her the answer anyway. "He believed what you told him. I just watched what you did." And with that, I left her alone with her own words playing on repeat. It wasn't the certified envelope that broke her. It was the HR escort through the glass lobby. Alyssa had walked into work like she always did. Heels sharp, blouse crisp, trying to pretend the ground under her feet hadn't shifted. But she didn't make it past reception. A woman in a black suit was waiting, holding a folder and flanked by a security officer in a company windbreaker. They didn't raise their voices. They didn't cause a scene. But the fact that everyone watched, that coworkers glanced up from laptops, whispered as she passed, that was what crushed her. She came home early, face flushed and streaked with mascara. She didn't throw her bag like before. She didn't scream. She just stood in the hallway, keys still in her hand, and said, "They suspended me. Effective immediately. Pending further review." I didn't look up from the paper I wasn't reading. "You'll land on your feet," I said calmly. "You always do." She stared at me like she didn't recognize the person sitting across from her. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she forgot who I was before she decided I was disposable. Or maybe she finally remembered. I gave her 2 days before I moved the next piece into play. The letter came via courier, this time addressed directly to her, not us. White envelope. Thick, embossed paper. The return address was from a private law firm out of Denver, an office tied to one of my silent partners from back when I was still consulting on the side. Inside was a mutual asset realignment notice. That was the term we used. Not divorce papers. Not separation agreement. Just a polite, lethal restructuring. On the surface, it looked generous. Fair, even. She kept the car, her personal accounts, her jewelry, even the little side rental she'd invested in before Vegas. But everything else? Everything we built, retirement accounts, our primary home, my consulting umbrella LLC, and the shared stock options from my old firm. Those were boxed in trusts and corporate shells she couldn't touch without a 3-year audit trail. I watched her read it at the kitchen table, lips moving silently, chest rising and falling like she couldn't get enough air. When she got to the final page, the signature line with her name left blank. Her hand started to shake. Then she looked up at me. "This is a joke," she said flatly. "It's clean," I replied. "It lets you walk away. No courts. No depositions. No subpoenas. You're locking me out of my own life." I leaned back, let the silence thicken. "Not locking you out," I said finally. "Just showing you the doors you walked past." She blinked twice, then stood, grabbed the letter, and stormed upstairs. The next night, she played her last card. I was in the living room, half watching something on Netflix, when she came in and turned off the TV. No yelling, no tears, just silence. And one sentence, "You'll ruin Emma too." I didn't move. "You think this is just about me?" she said, stepping closer. "You destroy my name, my job. What happens when Emma hears it at school? What happens when her mom becomes a punchline on Reddit or some legal cautionary tale at your next investor dinner?" I exhaled through my nose. Calm. Steady. But I didn't speak. You're not this person, Jason, she said, softer now. You've never been cruel. You've never been calculated like this. I stood up slowly and faced her head on. You're right, I said. I wasn't this person. She softened, thinking, hoping that she'd cracked me. Then I stepped closer. But I became him, I said. The second I heard you say, after Vegas, I'm filing for divorce. She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. I gave you space. I gave you silence. I gave you the benefit of the doubt. You gave me betrayal dressed as freedom. So now you get freedom, exactly how you wanted it, without the house, without the leverage, and without the story you rehearsed. Her eyes glossed over, and for a second, she looked like she might break again. But she didn't. She just walked away. For half a second, I sat there alone, heart pounding. Not in triumph. Not in rage. In doubt. I stared at the blank TV screen, and for the first time since all this started, I let a question drift into my head like smoke under a locked door. Did I go too far? Then I pictured her on the balcony in Vegas, whispering into someone else's chest, laughing about lawyers and timing and one last free weekend. And just like that, the doubt was gone. The final move came at the airport. Full circle. It was the day she'd told me she was flying to stay with a friend, someone she'd conveniently never mentioned before. I offered to drive her. She hesitated, then agreed, probably out of guilt or some warped attempt at civility. She didn't say much on the ride. She wore big sunglasses, a scarf, the kind of invisible outfit people wear when they know their world is collapsing and they don't want the world to see. We pulled up to the terminal. Before she opened the door, I said, "Wait." She froze, then turned. "I thought you should have this for the road," I said, reaching into the glove box. She took the envelope I handed her. Inside, a printed copy of her hotel charges from Vegas, laid out neatly by date, time, room service, spa visits, minibar charges, all under the name Alyssa Carter, and one incidental charge for additional guest wristband dated 11:48 p.m. Saturday night. Her breath caught when she saw it. I didn't flinch. "You were never off the grid," I said. "You were just arrogant." She looked at me, eyes wide. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. I leaned back in my seat. "Nothing." She held my stare, and for the first time in months, she knew she wasn't in control. "You asked for a clean break," I said as she opened the door. I looked at her one last time. "I gave you a clean ending." She stood outside the car, wind tugging at her coat, envelope clutched in both hands like it might burn her. She didn't slam the door. She just walked inside, and she never came back. The divorce finalized in 37 days. She didn't contest the terms, didn't show up to mediation, didn't even try to renegotiate. Her name vanished from every shared account. Her login credentials were wiped from every platform. She became a ghost in the machine of a life she once owned. As for me, I moved back into the master bedroom, got the locks changed, started spending more time with Emma, quiet walks, after-school ice cream runs, the kind of normal that doesn't need explaining. No drama, no threats, just silence and structure. People ask sometimes, friends, coworkers, even Travis once, if I ever wanted to burn it all down. Post the receipts. Humiliate her like she tried to do to me. Fight fire with fire. But that's the thing about fire. It leaves a mess. I didn't want revenge that scorched everything. I wanted control. And now, I have it. She thought Vegas was her fresh start. Turns out, it was mine.